Welcome to the William and Nolan podcast.
William and Nolan.
With William and Nolan about justice. Justice. I'm William.
And I'm Nolan.
Let's talk about justice. So, Nolan, what does justice mean to you?
I guess justice would have to be kind of like the consequences for actions, but like you're doing them for the good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that justice is really just the combination of all of humanity's different ideals. And ideals are just based on, everyone's ideals are just based on how they grew up and what the experiences that they had as a child. Do you think justice can be achieved in general? And then do you think justice can be achieved in today's society?
I guess justice probably can be achieved. You just need a global society, right? Like, I feel like justice is based on societies, and you'd need a singular society.
I think it's really just about compromise and like just people compromising on their different beliefs and just not getting so caught up and wrapped up in being confident in their own beliefs and just allowing them their ideas to change when given new information, you know? I mean, in my opinion, open-minded conversations and compromise are the only way to really reach any form of justice. I mean, because there is no true or correct justice at any moment. Justice is just the compromise of everyone's belief. So I saw this TED Talk about compromise, called "Compromise is Not a Dirty Word," by Thomas Keane, and he talks all about how, like, compromise is actually a good thing rather than how some people believe it to be a bad thing, and about how it's really important in politics these days for compromise to be a tool that is utilized as commonly as it should be, even just because of how useful of a tool it is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I just think that in today's society, like, the two different parties are just so far apart, and people will support their party rather than their actual ideals. Just, it's so black and white, and I think compromise would really bring about a lot of change about just people being in the middle more, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I also wanted to talk to you about this book called Antigone. It's about a girl named Antigone who her brother dies, or her brother is killed, really, and murdered, and then the King Creon doesn't allow for her brother to have a proper burial. And so then it ends up being this whole thing about how her brother isn't given the proper burial rights that most people are, I mean, everyone is given in that day. Because the most important part to me, just for this conversation, is the fact that the story really, or at least the conflict ends when Creon, the king, has been told by a level servant that he should really stop and like just stop and actually and let Antigone out of jail, because he put Antigone in jail at one point because he was so angry when he found out that she had tried to bury the body. And so finally Creon finally gives up, and yet it's to this one person who said, like, dude, you need to stop, basically like that, really. And yet there were all these other people pleading and begging Creon to stop his to stop what he was doing, and just like, because he was being ridiculous. And yet none of those people got through to him. And I think it's really just because sometimes when people come at you in a very aggressive way, you refuse to believe them just because you feel bad about your own opinions. And I think that's ridiculous, really.
Hmm.
I think people become defensive, and it can end up trapping someone in their mindset.
Does that keep them from attaining justice?
Yeah, just because they don't actually like look at all the information, just because they're not focused on that, because they're just focused on like trying to continue to believe in their idea.
Mm.
I also wanted to talk about just TED Talks in general are a very effective way of spreading ideas, which I know is their like whole slogan. But I think they spread ideas in an effective way that can also allow for people to change their opinion, just because it's not actually a very like aggressive way of telling someone something. Just because I think that it can, if you watch a TED Talk, it can really like sit in your mind for a little bit and then end up changing. Whereas getting into an argument with someone can end up being a whole thing, and then you just want them to be wrong, and you just want to be right, and that's what it ends up becoming about, rather than actually reaching justice.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just think that that's a bad way of going about it.
Then do you feel as though that's, if people who are already opposed to each other, how would you propose to get them to attain, well, not necessarily attain, but get them to achieve justice on both their ideas?
I really think it boils down to compromise and open-minded conversation.
Mm.
All right, and so then I wanted to talk about an article called "Many Americans Say They Want Politicians to Compromise, but Maybe They Don't." So the really interesting part of that article, what to me was the statistics of just how many people say that they want compromise in politics, and yet in this study they found out like that the percentage is so low of actual people who, like, the percentage of people who think they want compromise and the percentage of people who actually want compromise when asked the question and studied about it,
Mm-hmm.
it's just so low. There's such a big disconnect, and I think that it's a really bad thing when compromise isn't a focus.
I think no one I think no one is taught how to compromise either.
I guess.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a certain way to compromise and no one is ever taught how to. Like, I guess it's a mental skill, but at the same time, like, sometimes, like, maybe a parent could throw in compromises sometimes, not to like give their child like part of the bargain, but like just to teach your child how to compromise. You know what I mean? Like, that does justice for so many other people along with your like child. Like,
Just by
just
teaching.
yeah,
Yeah.
just teaching people how to compromise.
Yeah. And then the last topic I wanted to talk to you about was like kind of the meaningless of being confident in your sense of justice at any moment. I just think is a even though it's important to be confident in that, I just think that being confident in a way that limits how open-minded you are to new ideas can be a very negative thing, because your sense of justice is just based on the experiences you've had so far in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the place where justice comes from. It's just from the experiences you've had so far in your life with different people. And what do you think about the meaning behind people being confident in their sense of justice?
I think people are overconfident in their sense of justice, and
Especially
I feel like people think they know what's right, so much so that they're not right.
Exactly.
Or they just kind of go about it in ways that are like not the best. Like there is a way to achieve justice, and I feel like I guess there are several ways, but I feel like there are a lot of wrong ways to achieve justice too. And I think a lot of people take that way because it's easier and emotionally driven, and they just don't want to like take that time to like figure out how do I give up a little to get a little. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And going back to what you said about like how the overconfidence that people feel about their justice. I think that's exactly what, like, I think that's the exact problem that Antigone was all about. Is just Creon was so confident in his sense of justice, and just that was all he could see.
Mm.
I think really it boils down to justice can only be achieved through open-minded conversations, thoughtful conversations, and compromise. Really.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that?
I mean, I haven't disagreed with you yet.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it for our podcast today. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great day.
See you next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Have a great day, everyone. See ya.
Bye.